Posted by you/that last by unicorn. I, 29F, met my boyfriend, Michael, 35M, at a show I performed in. I do theater as a hobby, and he complimented my performance and bought me a drink. We have been together for a little over a year now. His sister got married last week, and I was initially pleased to be asked to be a bridesmaid, but also a bit surprised since she barely knows me. However, I thought this was an attempt to have an excuse to get to know each other better. Michael and I got into an argument the week before because he said he wanted to consider spicing up our bedroom life by having a three-way. He said that since I was bi, why not? I didn't like the idea and said so, and it devolved into a petty Cold War. He started ignoring my messages after leaving my place and didn't reply at all until the day before the wedding, asking what time he should pick me up since we couldn't go separately or people would gossip about us. He barely said anything to me the whole time we traveled to the venue. The wedding was fine, but at the reception, he got me a plate and leaned in to kiss me, but I shied away, and he got up to mingle. I started feeling ill not too long after, and 911 was called. I realized I was having an allergic reaction, but I had my pen. Still, I had to be taken away by the ambulance. That's when someone who was looking for Michael said he had left with some of the other groomsmen to a bar nearby. I called him 6 times and texted that it was an emergency while I was being checked out by the paramedics, and again when they strongly suggested I go to the hospital, but he never replied. I was released by the hospital and called him to ask him to pick me up, but he didn't answer. So, I woke up my best friend, and she took me home and stayed with me overnight to make sure I was okay. The next morning, Michael called, but I was still asleep, so he left me a lengthy voicemail, yelling that I ruined his sister's wedding and that I always have to make things about me. He came over to further berate me and said he should just break up with me because I am dramatic and that this is all too much. I pointed out that he had gotten my plate, knew full well that I have a legitimate allergy to coconut, and that his sister told me afterward that he knew the cake he gave me was a coconut cream cake. All the food had signs indicating what it was and what the ingredients were, as I was not the only person with allergies who attended. He left, saying he couldn't talk to me when I'm this way. I was honestly exhausted, so I didn't bother going after him. However, his father called me to ask how I was doing, and after I answered, he told me that I was hurting Michael's heart by blaming him and that Michael had been inconsolable since we fought. I texted Michael to ask if we could talk, but the conversation somehow circled back to the three-way and how I don't respect him, even in intimate settings. He said I don't want to hear him out regarding his needs and that I always make things about me. I'm so confused because this feels manipulative to me, but I respect his father so much. I attend their church, and he is a pastor there. Having him tell me that I am in the wrong really threw me. Am I wrong here? Edit. A lot of comments are suggesting that this was intentional, and I had never considered that he might have given me something I'm allergic to on purpose, certainly not to use against me to leverage in our argument. But now I think I may need to come clean and talk to his parents. I know them well, so hopefully, it won't go too badly. Edit. Michael texted me this morning to apologize. He said the wedding was stressing him out, and he had a lot on his mind, so he accidentally handed me the plate he meant for himself, not the one for me. He said he didn't know I was in the hospital and feels bad that he wasn't there for me, but he left the reception with some of the groomsmen to blow off much-needed steam. I don't know how I feel about it all, so I just replied, okay. He's now asking to come over and talk this out in person. Update 1 day later. Well, many of you were right, I shouldn't have met him in person, but I did. He took me out to lunch, insisting on paying for everything, and it was incredibly over the top. He had flowers and a written letter of apology, but as some of you messaged me, his apologies dodged the point with phrases like if I hurt you or sorry you're feeling that way, etc. He quoted some scriptures and said he has repented because his carelessness caused me harm. I wasn't really moved by any of it until he mentioned how much his family loves me and how our church is rooting for us as a couple. That's when I sat back and realized that one flimsy reason I was even considering forgiving him and staying was because of the pressure I felt as the girlfriend of a pastor's son. It occurred to me that there have been so many times I let things slide because he is the heir apparent, giving him a lot of power in the social aspect of our community. Sorry if I'm rambling, but I'm emotional and a little tipsy. I remember just staring at him and saying it was incredibly alarming that, by now, he still wasn't aware of my one single allergy and that he didn't bother to tell his own girlfriend he was stepping out with the guys, or even that he was leaving his own sister's wedding at all. He then said it was actually kind of stupid of me to eat a cake that had coconut and implied I was an idiot for not realizing what I had was coconut. At that moment, I realized he would never accept that he was in the wrong, and there was no point in continuing. I stood up, smiled, and said, "You know what, don't worry about it. Thanks for dinner, good night." He replied by saying that if I wasn't going to grow up and accept his apology, I was a waste of his time. He uses that line a lot whenever we disagree, and it usually hurts me deeply. But this time, it was like a Rolodex of memories flooded my brain, and I started to really suspect that he's been deliberately making me sick whenever we disagree to teach me a lesson. I told him I was done and that he needn't waste his time with me anymore, then I left. Afterward, I sent screenshots to his father, explaining the situation as best as I could without outright blaming Michael for my past illnesses, since I don't have proof. About 20 minutes ago, I received a text from his father. His father said he was incredibly disappointed in my immaturity and hurt that I wouldn't even wait until Sunday at church, where we could pray together, talk it out, and heal. I felt this way for a while, but I was finally able to say it, that using religion as a tool for guilt is low. I told him I am no longer concerned with his version of God, as that version is judgmental, cruel, and heartless, while the God I've always believed in is loving, compassionate, and kind. I told him I'm done. I've since been told, through his father and further emails, that I am no longer welcome at my church until I reconcile with my true husband and learn compassion and respect for my leaders. So I guess that's it. I'll enjoy sleeping in tomorrow and eating coconut-free food while lounging around my home, instead of going to 3 separate church services starting at 8 a.m. after that. I'll figure it all out from there. I don't really know how to sign off, but I do watch a concerning amount of Charlotte Dauber videos, and she usually ends things with practical advice like do your laundry or something. So I'll just say, live for yourself, feed your soul, and know you are enough. I'm going to put in the work to get there, and I hope we all make it to the other side, contented, and filled with love and joy. Up in the comments. I forgot to add to my post, but, well, I ended up sending his dad screenshots of some texts. If you're here for the drama, here are the top 2. 1. One night, after I sent Michael home for trying, and failing, to pressure me into intimacy, he texted me, "You're missing out and should be grateful since your body makes me sick, but my love for you is stronger. Would it hurt to show some appreciation by giving me a handy?" 2. On his birthday, I had just been in the hospital after passing out from exhaustion and dehydration. I went straight to his party afterward, stayed until everyone left, and even helped clean up, except for the kitchen. After I left, he sent me, "You could have cleaned the kitchen." Then followed up with, "Or stayed over to get me off." And finally, "You're a waste of time if I don't even get any action on my birthday. Thanks a lot." And after both incidents, he suggested adding a third person. His dad hasn't responded. Commenter. Holy crap, and you stayed with him? You poor girl, no one deserves someone like that in their life. But you didn't say if you told his dad about him sending you to the hospital and potentially unaliving you. Because we both know, and the rest of Reddit knows, that he did that intentionally. And if there was proof of him giving you that cake, you could probably send him to jail. Ops response. I didn't and don't have the best self-esteem. And being the only black woman in this town, at least that I know of, I've always felt like I'm considered less desirable, not saying it's right, but it's just a reality where I live. I've been here since my preteen years. When Michael asked me out, it was like a parade. Everyone acted like it was a Cinderella story and that I had won the lottery or something. I've been texting a friend today, and she's letting me know how dumb I've been. I never told her about our issues, and is about ready to commit crimes, lol. I think I lost myself for a bit, but I've actually wanted to leave the church low-key for a while because of how I've been treated, so that helps a bit. Second update 2 months later. It's been a hot minute. I completely forgot about my posts until I was watching a YouTube video on Reddit stories, and one of the stories reminded me that I never gave an update. I found a more laid-back church in my city. It's the kind where we can go to the pub afterward and have a laugh. I really liked it, and I made some amazing friends that I'm still in touch with. The whole going to church thing was actually my therapist's idea, to see if I still identified with the church or its ideals. Turns out, I don't. So now, I'm back to being the heathen I am, lol. My ex quickly moved on, and he had a new girlfriend within a month of our breakup. Bless that woman, I thought, because isn't she in for a ride? Oddly enough, she reached out to me on Facebook, and out of curiosity, I opened the message. She started by introducing herself, saying how long she and my ex had been dating and how they've known each other since childhood. Then she said she feels convicted by the Holy Ghost to seek a resolution between me and my ex, and she's worried I might be his true wife. She went on to say that if I can't forgive him, it proves I'm not his true wife and asked me to let her know, as she can't marry him until I make this clear. I kid you not. When I shared the screenshots with my new church friends, they sent vomiting emojis and said this sounded more like a cult than a faith. I agreed and replied to her with, "Yeah, marry him if that's what you want, and nothing more." I've been getting messages from members of the church, but I don't really care. I've loved my life since leaving. I didn't know life could be so enjoyable, and it's made me wonder how much damage the church actually did to me. For fun, I'm going to an appointment with a friend of a friend's apprentice for a tarot reading. No joke, I was asked. No offense to anyone who believes in it, it's just not usually my thing, but I'm curious and interested. Maybe it'll be good. I'll let you know. Third update 1 month later. This is really hard to explain. After my last post, he stayed away for all of a hot second. He kept dropping off gifts and food, freaking food, of all things at my door. I've ignored them and thrown them out at the end of each week like all the other trash. Then he waited out front for me, so when I came out to take the trash out, he was sitting right there. I didn't even see him. I was tired and just trying to get chores done. He blocked me from my door and went on a speech about how I'm his true wife and that he cannot marry his girlfriend without my permission. I can't keep track of the mental and theological gymnastics he went through, but he basically asked me for a three-way with his current girlfriend to see if we could figure out who his true wife is. I bluffed and told him that my necklace had a panic button and that the cops were alerted to his presence, so he needed to leave. He just sort of stared at me, but it was this blank look, like he wasn't even human. Then he started going on about how he thinks about me every night before bed and more. At that point, I began gauging how fast I was compared to him, how quickly I would need to run to wake a neighbor, and which one of them might respond the fastest. I just kept saying no and repeating that the cops were coming. Thank the universe for a random siren, because I don't know if that's what convinced him, but he did leave. He was kind of chuckling as he walked away, saying that I've always been so playful and calling my behavior an act. It took me less than 30 minutes to pack a bag and head to a friend's place. I sat in her tub for what felt like a day, though it wasn't. When I finally got out, she and I sat down and started making a plan to move my things out bit by bit until it was just down to the furniture. I don't give a damn about the furniture. So we implemented the plan. She would drop by, her dad would, her mom would, and I would go with her brother. Slowly, over time, we took everything I really cared to keep from my home. I'm safe and away from there now, and I'm just ready to wash my hands of the place. He has texted me a few times, assuring me of this plan to pick his wife. So, I finally cracked and sent his messages to his parents last week. It had been silent since then until this past Wednesday. There's a bar I like where they have wine Wednesdays, and I went to relax until I felt a tap on my shoulder. He was there with what looked like a group, and he started smiling and said we needed to talk. I loudly told him to leave me alone, but he dropped to his knees and asked me to marry him. Some people started clapping, and a regular who knows me came up, leaning in to ask if I was okay. I jerked back and told him to leave me alone. The regular offered to pay my tab so I could leave, and he walked me to my car. Now, it's been this game of gathering footage and dealing with the police. So far, I've been told this isn't evidence of harassment but a domestic dispute, so I don't know what to do about that. I know I'm done with where I live, but moving now feels like the hardest task in the world. I know I have to. I can't stay here. But now I'm mourning it all. It feels too big.